Hello everyone. Welcome to my very first episode of NMDNarratives. Perhaps a lot of you are probably wondering, what exactly does NMD stand for? NMD stands for Nightmare Disorder. Nightmare disorder is also known as dream anxiety disorder, and it's a sleep disorder characterized by frequent nightmares that often happen every single night to an individual such as myself. These nightmares that I have often portray myself in situations that seem to jeopardize my life, my personal safety, and my sanity. These often occur in my deep stages of REM sleep. Now I'm going to give you a warning beforehand, should you choose to take these journeys and listen to my stories of my personal nightmares that I'm going to narrate for you. You will encounter nightmares that are disturbing, graphic, and sometimes uneasy to get out of your own mind. So if you choose to continue listening, welcome to NMD Narratives. Let us begin. During this nightmare, I was in a hospice-like setting where I was attached to some kind of weird nebulizer or breathing machine. This was going on constantly. My family was present, actually immediate and further family. I didn't quite know what was happening because I didn't know why I was there. But there were parties, and at one point, a doctor whom I can't see his face would come in every once in a while, and I would hear him say, "Okay, let's do your next nebulizer treatment." Every time he would come in and enter the door and say this to me, I always panicked. And this generator, nebulizer-like thing, had a vivid blue light that would pop on and off, and he attached this hose to some kind of holster that was attached to my face. For some reason, it was so realistic. It went on for days, it seemed, in my nightmare. I even remember falling asleep in my dream and having difficulties sleeping. But I didn't even know it was possible to fall asleep in a dream, or even a nightmare for that fact. Throughout the whole dream and that process, I was in a constant state of panic and fear, and thought of, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to afford this treatment? How are my parents going to afford this if I can't even pay for this? There was one point within this nightmare where several doctors came in. They stepped foot into my room and they stopped the treatment. Although, when they stopped this treatment, I was unable to remove this mask-like holster. I couldn't even ask for their help. There was at one point, the doctors covered my mouth with this gray, like apparatus, and within a flash, somehow I ended up at some kind of riverfront. I was on top of a river raft float ride kind of thing that was in a very mysterious forest. This forest was very dark. I could see the trees. There were pine trees. They were dark and the wind was blowing vivid dark green colors. And the water was very rapid. I could actually feel the water. And there was a dock where my entire family was present. They were there and they wanted to take a picture. And they all bundled up together, and I backed away out of the photo in fear. And from that dock, because I still had this mask-like apparatus on, I could not seem to remove this mask, and it was very panic-inducing. The next thing I know, I'm in some kind of food court, being chased by several security officers, or some kind of person that has law enforcement or some kind of background of law enforcement. I was then brought to some kind of place with either my sister or someone that was female. There was a crazy parking lot that had really elaborate, crazy markings, and they were faded light yellow. They brought me to this place because they needed me to repaint these lines, and I wouldn't have to worry about how much it would cost because the small building would be paying for my supplies. I remember looking down at the ground and seeing all these crazy lines that needed to be placed. I don't have any kind of machine, and I've never seen any kind of people or person use this method before. I have never in my life painted these lines on a parking lot, let alone concrete. I was then shopping for supplies, and during this occurrence, I was in a car with someone whom I may have thought was my father or another random younger person. We then somehow ended up on a military base, and at some point, their supply shop was closed. For some reason, there was also a restaurant, and this restaurant happened to be some kind of Thai restaurant. We all three talked about this restaurant and somehow knew about it, but it never really was present in real life. We then proceeded to get back into the car, which I didn't see exactly what type of car it was. I knew it had back seats. We stopped at various places, hardware stores, and they did not have what I needed. I remember going through the aisles and seeing shiny bathroom faucets on the display, safety goggle holders. But then we got in the back, and this mysterious vehicle drove past this next place, which really stood out. It was a huge hardware store, or even a major construction supply store. And there were 3 parts of it, where everything was painted in separate colors. The first one was purple, the next was blue, and then the final one was pink. Everything in those stores, in that section, was literally that color on the outside and inside. We stopped there, and there was very odd things in that store. I tried to make my way out into the paint section, and I could see various things on display. There was nothing that had any kind of relation to what I needed to do. However, there was a specialized paint section, and in this place, I just needed to get there, but I couldn't. We looked for that area. I looked for that area. And I kept walking. I was walking about the store, and I saw some really shiny new equipment. Some tools, some toolbox attachments, and then there was this entrance. I soon entered that entrance, and there was a bunch of modern art and various other modern objects, and even t-shirts that costed over $989. I remember reading a sign that was on the wall of these displays. You break this shit, you pay 100 plus whatever the price determined it was. We then exited this room, and through this little door, as I entered, I seemed to have woken up. Now this may have not been the most graphic nightmare, nor the most bizarre nightmare I've ever had in my life. But this is just the first nightmare to get everyone warmed up and prepared for my next narrative on what happens to be probably the most graphic nightmare I've ever encountered of my life. To this day, I still remember this next nightmare that I'm going to narrate for you. Please like, subscribe, and share this channel for others who enjoy these kind of narrations that seem to be more creepier and odd. Thank you for joining me in NMD Narratives. Sleep tight, because I know I won't.